Good evening, everyone. It is your girl, Marcie Thomas, and I am happy to be back with you again for another episode of Live Well Sister. We are kicking off 2025 with a bang and helping us get set up for what's going to be a spectacular year for each and every one of us, because we're claiming that at the top of the year, right? That's what we're doing. And then even beyond that, there's just so many different ways, if you watch that beginning intro, that we like to consider what it means to live well. And tonight's guest, she didn't know that, but I saw her smiling in the background because so many of these things are in alignment with what her book talks about that we're going to be getting into here shortly. So I am coming to you from the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, where we have had some cold weather that I'm kind of sort of used to from my days of growing up in Ohio, but I don't like it anymore. So let us know where you are joining us from, and we just really look forward to having an awesome conversation. So tonight we're going to be talking about this book that we are actually getting a sneak peek of tonight, the concepts and the ideas in No One is Self-Made by Dr. Lakeysha, or we call her Dr. Key Hallmon, and it's Build Your Village to Flourish in Business and in Life. So in case you're not familiar with Dr. Key, she has transformed the lives of thousands of Black entrepreneurs across the world through her flagship brand, The Village Market, and sister organizations, The Village Retail, which is a storefront here in the Atlanta area, featuring premier Black-owned brands, and her nonprofit, Our Village United, which revitalizes small businesses by providing funding and technical services. So if you know any entrepreneurs out there or you're a budding entrepreneur, please go ahead and share this out because they're really going to want to hear this conversation. But Dr. Key's love of community, paired with her mantra, support is a verb, inspires Black entrepreneurs everywhere and the communities who support them with intention. She is an award-winning expert in education and business development, and her innovative village model has become a highly sought after and has facilitated 8.3 million, you heard that, $8.3 million in sales to Black businesses. So without any further delay, let's welcome Dr. Key to Live Well Sister and Brown Girl Collective. Hello there, Doctor.
Marcie, what an opening. Thank you so much. I've been so excited to talk with you. The opening, I am just, number one, I'm just enamored. What incredible work that you are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I consider that an honor because I look at what you've got going on and I'm like, okay, sis, thank you. I appreciate that. But that's what this is all about. This is about the village and us being able to love on and support and, really get behind what others are doing. So first of all, thanks to you for allowing us to get a sneak peek, because this book isn't out until the first week of February. So we're about 2 weeks out.
Yes, the book, No One is Self-Made, will be in the world February 4th. Yes. You know what? It took me, I over a span of 2 years, writing this book, dreaming about this book, and now to know that we're down less than a week and a half, 2 weeks away from finally the premiere, I am beyond elated and just absolutely grateful for the opportunity to write.
Yes. So what is it that made you want to go ahead and write this book? Because you've had successes, with your businesses, and there's some other things that we didn't even talk about in that intro, but you've been doing so well and making such a mark here in Atlanta and, of course, touching others outside of the Atlanta area. But what was it that made you want to write this book and give these tips and inspiration to others?
It was... Well, number one, I felt that I had something meaningful to say. Writing this book is no different when I've opened a business. I felt that I had value to add. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I could put in all these thoughts that I have in my mind, the love that I have for our community. I felt that it would fit and live well in the pages of a book. Mm-hmm. And so when the opportunity came, it was just time to go. Yes. I will tell you that I have had aspirations to write since I was a little girl in Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a dream actualized, but the timing of this book and why this book is No One is Self-Made is because I felt that this is the message that our community needs to hear.
We definitely do, because I touched on it a little bit before we came on, and I know we're going to get into it. We all know, if you're watching this in real time or within the next, few days, we know what just recently happened politically, and things that are continuing to happen politically. So we really do have to look at how we can build within our communities, how we can continue to build our villages or our tribes, and come up with ways to really support us so that we can maintain and sustain ourselves as time goes forward. So yes, I know when you started the process of writing, you didn't know what was going to be happening in the world at the time, but everything is in divine timing in terms of this book being introduced to the world.
Absolutely. And you said it. I was going to say that there's no way that I would have known 2 years, almost 3 years ago, that the world would be where it is now, where our country would be in 2025. But I think that is the way that a divine alignment works, that we're in the presence of writing and writing and responding to whatever a moment is. But when you are in divine alignment, there's a deeper moment that you are responding to. And so I know that this book, what I would say is not my book, is our book. This is a beloved writing love letter to our community. It is, I'm prayerful that this book is a sobering place, and a place of refuge, and a place also where people know that here is a blueprint. Here is a guide to how we can build together. But you're correct. I had no idea that such a time as this would come, that this book would be timely and also timeless.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for saying that, because, there's always something going on outside of you. And you talk about that even in the book, the whole concept of village and people coming together and, speaking your name in rooms that you're not in, just all these different things to help bring things into alignment, which we're going to get into. You have a chapter that talks a lot about alignment. We'll get into that in momentarily. But you have mentioned, of course, you're here now in the Atlanta area, but you are originally from Mississippi, and not just Mississippi, but small town Mississippi. So just tell us a little bit about your early journey and some of the things that even led you to being where you are now, because you start the book out paying homage to your grandmother there in Mississippi.
Yes, I'm from a small town of Batesville, Mississippi. Small but mighty with love. Small but mighty with support. But mighty with role models. Women such as my grandmothers, women such as my mother, who is deceased, but she is my greatest ancestor. I was a young person with big dreams, big ideas, and they would just go along with me, I must say. I remember, I would run in the house and, tell my mom and dad, one day I'm going to be an author. And I'll be holding Dr. Maya Angelou books in my hand. I'm reading James Baldwin, Toni Morrison as a little girl. And I remember telling my mom, I'm going to do this. Yes. Because what's so beautiful about a place that doesn't have all the lights that Atlanta does, and not all the opportunities that Atlanta, it gave me an opportunity to dream. Yes. And so I'm very grateful for that rural country upbringing, because I also got to see community firsthand. Right. I had no idea that Mississippi was economically as distressed as it is, because we had the wealth of love. So I had no idea until I got older to really understand how far behind Mississippi is economically, how far behind Mississippi is in education and things like that, and access and equity, because the way that I was raised. And I was raised by people that told me that my responsibility in life was to be a good person first. Yes. And to my parents, and again, my mother and my dad and my grandparents, they really modeled for me what it meant to be a good human, and to carry myself with decency and character. My mother always told me to just live a life of impact, and she would be pleased.
I love that. And that's just so important, because I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, because it explains the person that you are today. It's just the things that you're doing now are just an extension of who you were even as a little girl, and just wanting to be a person that supported others and believed in the power of community and working together and all those sorts of things. I love that. But you did not start out in business. You did not start out as an entrepreneur.
I did not. I believe we have many purposes, right?
Yeah.
I think we have many things that get us into alignment. But my first thing that I wanted to do was be a teacher. I write about this in the book, so I can't wait till they read it. But
Yeah.
I write about in the book when I really had that aha, the epiphany moment that I wanted to teach, and I wanted to teach in Mississippi. I wanted to teach in the Mississippi Delta. And my father was like, absolutely not. You're going to go be a doctor. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to be a teacher. So you can also tell a type of how stubborn I was too, and probably slightly hard headed. But my very first passion, and will be my forever passion, is being an educator. My time teaching at Madison Shannon Palmer in Marks, Mississippi. Shout out to my dad's hometown, my grandfather's
Yeah.
hometown. It transformed my life. I never experienced beyond my family. I didn't even know what it meant to love people so deeply beyond my family. I love my students like they were my first and second cousins, and third cousins. I was a young person teaching. I taught as soon as I got out of college. So I was 22 years old, trying to pretend that I was 32 years old because I had 18-year-olds in my classroom. So every day I'm trying to look older and sound older, but it transformed my heart. It transformed my belief in love and in community. I always tell my students, if I only teach you English, I fail. I want you to see a life beyond these four walls. I want you to see a life beyond the Mississippi Delta. I want you to, as we read about people in the book, know that your name can be in the book, that you can be the author of a book, that you can be the author of your life. These are things that I would tell my students all the time. And I still love them deeply and keep in great contact with them.
I love that. And I did not tell you this. I don't know if I mentioned my mom or not, but I did, because I mentioned how she just had a birthday. But my mom actually was an educator. She was a teacher, but she taught the little kids. She didn't want to do it the big grown ones, but she taught younger children, and she did it her entire career. And it's just something that even though that's not the path that I took, I was able to watch her and what that all meant to her, and just the work and everything that she, poured into the kids, and, sometimes spending her money, and things like that, to do things to make sure the kids had what they needed. And of course, back in the day, there were times when she even brought kids home to spend the night or stuff like that. You can't do that anymore. But back in her day,
but yes.
Yeah, all of that. So I love that. And my father's mother was an educator as well. So I got a chance to see her. Oh, yes. I have a comment. Actually, it's one of my sorors, Karen. I was so excited about this interview, Dr. Hallmon. I tune in every time I see your name. I love it.
Thank you,
Karen.
Karen.
Love it. Yes, and make sure you get a copy of the book. She's also in our sorority book club. So make sure you get a copy of the book as well, so you can read it, because there's a lot, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, there's just a lot in here about community and village, and even ways that you can support others who may be entrepreneurs or wanting to build something. So it's something for everyone. Don't let the business part think that it's not for you, because it definitely is.
And I wrote it that way. I tell folks that this book, if you're a business owner, is for you. If you are a change agent, this book is for you. If you're sitting in corporate America and you know that there's more that you are being called and pulled to do, you're in a place of discomfort, this book is for you. But anyone that wants to live a purposeful life, they will find something meaningful in this book. You know that I write a great deal about alignment. I know that we can be in a position today that is leading us for where we will be tomorrow if we fulfill the assignment on our life. My first assignment was to teach, and to teach well, to give it everything that I had. That is the only reason why I could be on here tonight talking to you about a book. It's because I was obedient to my first assignment, and it propelled me to where I am now.
I love that. I love that. One more comment, and then we're going to talk about alignment, because that's not the first chapter, but because you've mentioned it a couple times, I want to go ahead and dive into that, because that is real important. Another comment from Karen. I love when you said on Vault Empowers, we have all we need, and when we think we don't have what we need is because we want to say yes, say no. Oh, girl, you know what you meant. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying it right. Yes, yes. But yeah, we basically that we have everything that we
We have
need.
everything that we need.
Yes, we have
Yes.
everything that we need. So yes,
Mhm.
that is so true. But I want to dive into this concept a little bit about assignment,
Mhm.
alignment, and purpose, because that is something that you talk about in the book. And you've mentioned the alignment piece a couple of
Mhm.
times, but there is generally an assignment before you can get into alignment. So talk a little bit about that.
I believe that these things flow in tandem, that there's
Mm,
an assignment, there's alignment, but that is all propelling us towards purpose. We have to be obedient when we are to respond to an assignment on our life. And it
mm,
doesn't mean it's always the stuff that we want to do. It may not be in the package of that big goal, that big dream, that light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's the lamp while you walk through the tunnel. It's
mm,
very important for us to know that we're in a season to be obedient to where we are.
mm,
If there is something for us to do and it is meant for us to fulfill it, that is an assignment and we must complete it because
right,
in that assignment, it sets us up. I know for me, I didn't lose any time by spending years, a couple years teaching.
right.
It only prepared me for this time that I'm in. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
lose anything. So if people are out there and they don't feel that they're 100% doing what they feel that they're meant to do,
Right.
you have to ask yourself, am I in an assignment season?
Mm-hmm.
What is the value that this time is giving me? What am I learning? What skills can be transferred to something else? What relationships am I building? What cushion am I setting myself up for? All those things to me are life assignments. And
Mm,
it behooves us to be obedient to the time we're in so we can learn the lesson, so we can get what that assignment is trying to give us.
mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's hard for people because sometimes we don't like the assignment in the moment. Lord knows I've been there, be like, ooh, okay, this is my assignment for right now. But you are so right about things aligning themselves because you talk about an instance, where you were teaching and then someone talked to you about doing special needs children, and that wasn't necessarily on your bingo card, but you did it, but it allowed you to do other things. And I can think of instances like that even in my own life where, okay, I'm over here doing this other thing and this might not making a whole lot of sense at the time, but ultimately it may have been setting me up for something else.
And I always ask myself, I look at it as a domino effect. And you're right, I tell the story in the book. We won't give too much away.
Mm-mm.
But when I had an opportunity to say no to something, but I said yes. And
Mm,
it just opened, is the reason why I moved to Atlanta. If I didn't say yes to that assignment, I wonder where would I be now? What would
right.
I be doing? But because I said yes to that, it opened my invitation to come to Atlanta, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I was obedient to something that I didn't necessarily know if that was meant for me to do or not. But I think when we're in those positions, I think you ask yourself, but is this aligned to something that I want?
Mm-hmm.
It was still teaching for me. It was just teaching differently.
Right.
It
Right.
was still it was still purposeful. It was just different than what I knew. And so that's
Mm,
also why it's important to align ourselves with fellow light workers, those that have the ability to see the light in us, because folks have especially my mother had ability to see in me what I couldn't see. And I
mm-hmm.
think as we build our village, as we build our people, folks have a way of being able to speak over us and to us, and it illuminates something within us to say, wow, I never even considered that.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to be our earth angels, they're there to be our blessings.
Yes, you're so right about that because you mentioned your mom has gone on. My dad has gone on as well. And he was always my biggest cheerleader about, things in that nature about, you could do this, you could do that. And sometimes I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, of course you're going to say that because you're my father, because you love me. But every parent doesn't automatically do that. So, I took it for granted, but we know that it's not the case for every person that's coming up. But yeah, there is oftentimes things that other people can see in you that you can't see in yourself, and them just speaking life into you just means so much when they're able to do that, and can kind of push you or propel you to want to do more and be more and think bigger and think outside of the box and all of that. So I love that. But I do want to go back just a little bit, because in the first chapter of the book you are talking about the whole thing, because the book is called No One is Self-Made. You kick it off there, this whole myth about being self-made. So just talk a little bit about that, because I think that that's something that people, especially when you're hearing pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you hear those sorts of things. It ties into that whole concept of you have to do it all alone.
I wrote this book and I entitled it No One is Self-Made because I think we need to start attacking words, and we need to start confronting the things that we tell ourselves, that we're self-made. I believe that if I understand why we say those things, because I believe in self-determination. We need it. But self-determination does not mean that every single thing that you've achieved in life, you achieved on your own. I work hard quietly, but I also know that I have a village and I have a team. And if we continue on that narrative of being self-made, we erase critical people. We erase critical parts of the journey. That if we're trying to build a beloved community, the people have to know the story of community. They have to know who your community is. They have to know that you have the ability to work with people and people have the ability to work with you. So I attack it head on. I know it can make some entrepreneurs uncomfortable, but sometimes we need to be made uncomfortable, because none of us are self-made. We are village-made. We are a product of all the people that pour into us, push us, join our teams, volunteer. We're a product of all those people. And that is the most powerful story. That is the story of the collective.
It definitely is. And it's also appropriate that we're doing this on the week of MLK Day, because he is definitely a person that, you think self-made, he's this person that got all this shine, and he's the name that we know, and he's the person that we acknowledge on this holiday, on that holiday, even though we know that his wife had a lot to do with it. So she was a part of his village. We wouldn't have had the holiday if she hadn't pressed for it. But even when he was alive, it wasn't just him.
No, it wasn't just him. And I made sure in this book that I lifted the name of a lot of people who were supportive of him and supportive of the great work that he was called to lead. You can be called to lead work, but it doesn't mean you're the only person that's responsible for doing the work. Absolutely. In order for MLK to be his greatest self, it took all the people, every one of those brilliant women and men who assisted him in the midnight hour, even when he was stricken with anxiety and in his own fear of what was imminent. He had people standing left and right of him, locked arms on those marches. To me, that's what the community is. Yes. When I'm even while we're sitting here tonight, there's energy that's locked arms on us, holding us up, making sure that we can be our most present selves in this conversation. That is the story. That is what we should be talking about. This is what we should be screaming to the rafters, because at the time that we're in 2025, community has always and will always be the only thing that will save us. Absolutely. It is the thing that we can consistently rely on.
That is so good. And it's so true. I mentioned that to you a little bit before we came on. Like, no, I have people who can't help me in certain ways, because that's the thing as well. I just want to touch on that a little bit, because we are about to get into like how you build your village, but understanding that, yes, your mom might not be able to help you build a website, but she can help you with something else. She could be, that spiritual, emotional support, those other things. So not to think that even the thing of people helping you isn't always necessarily tied to their boots on the ground, so to speak. Sometimes it's just they're lifting up a prayer for you. You know what I mean? It could be so many other ways that support shows up. So I just wanted to say that as well. But Karen has a question that actually is leading into what we're going to talk about next, which is building the village. Her question is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting their journey in business and finding their village, or how to get started. So in this next section, we're going to talk about roll call, which is the chapter in which Dr. Key discusses how we can build our village and some of the people that we need to have in it.
Yes. Karen, thank you. Thank you for being so engaged, and thank you for the great question. I don't want us to be intimidated by where we are today, by where we will be. And so it's important as we start to build our teams, you have to know your own gifts and your strengths. In order to know that, then you know who you need to bring on board as your complement. I have a whole chapter around you being able to identify, what is my gift? How do I show up in the world? And then we have to have another honest conversation with ourselves, which is also a superpower. What am I not good at? Every business person does not want to be the one that's on the stage talking about the business. Every business person does not have the vision of being a visionary. Maybe they're a builder. You have to read the book to know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But Karen, in order to build, first, you have to understand where your gifts, and everyone who's listening, where your gifts lie. And then decide, these are the people that I need to attract. Then you have to get out in the world and start being present, building relationships, show up. There is power of being in the right rooms, not every room, being in the right rooms. There's power in pushing yourself to go when you don't feel like it.
Yes.
Not because it's out of alignment. It's just because I don't know if I feel like it today. I can't tell you how many blessings have come to my life when I didn't feel like it and went ahead and went the other and went ahead and went. So for all those that's listening, please show up and then communicate with people. Let people know that you are building. Ask them what they are doing. Invite people out if folks are still going to coffee and tea. Invite folks to coffee and tea or over a Zoom. And then start thinking about how you all can collaborate and build together. But to me, what I have done in the way that I have built my companies is me being clear on the gifts that I possess and those that I don't, and me being willing to show up at places like the Gathering Spot when I was first opening my business, and me being willing to meet with other entrepreneurs and gathering other entrepreneurs, because sometimes you don't know the people, but you can send out an invite and say, I'm calling out entrepreneurs, meet me for coffee at Urban Grind Coffee Shop. These are things that I did in 2016. I didn't come to Atlanta knowing a lot of people at all, but I had a vision for my life and a belief that I was capable of doing it. And I just stayed consistent, very consistent with building my village person by person.
Yes, and I can relate to that so much, Dr. Key, because I have been in Atlanta 4 years. Last month made 4 years, so I have not been here that long. And Karen, she's one of my soarers in my chapter, so she knows I am very busy. I am involved in a lot of different things, and I was, very intentional when I moved to this city about building community, whether it be in my sorority chapter or at church, or, getting involved in community service and things like that. On Monday, I was at an event sponsored by Black Girls Guide to Atlanta. And it was about 10 of us ladies Black women sitting around the room, not paying attention to what was on the news, but, communicating and networking and, doing those sorts of things. So, just from my own experience, some people might be like, oh, Atlanta is cliquish, or, all these things that people might say about this city or any other city. But, if you take the time and, like Dr. Key says, just show up and, be your best self when you show up, you'll be surprised at the community that you'll build and the village that you'll start to pull together.
Absolutely. And I will also, share that the gift is being authentic and not transactional. Be your most authentic self. Whatever is meant to be in that relationship is going to happen. I think sometimes as we were maneuvering and networking, I was like, I gotta meet this person. I gotta, if I meet this person, it's gonna happen. Just be authentic. Have confidence in what you possess. And whatever is supposed to happen in that relationship, if it's supposed to move forward or if it's not meant to manifest at all, it will not. And we
Right.
have to trust it the first time.
I love that. I love that. You also talk a lot about values, and I think that that's a thing that sometimes people don't seem to operate with a value system, and it shows. You laughing because you know it's true. People oftentimes don't have values. I mean, that they just like go for whatever they think is the fast money maker, or or as you said, trying to build things without being authentic about it. So just talk about how important, because to me that's a big part of it as well. Like, what are the values that you have as you're even stepping into these spaces?
I don't partner with people unless I know that we're values aligned, even if it sounds like we're mission aligned. And I've made the mistake. I made those mistakes of saying, oh, we have the same mission. We're trying to do the same thing. But it doesn't mean we have the same value of how we treat people. Right. It doesn't mean we have the same value of how we will get there. And so what I learned through my own hard life lessons of knowing that being mission aligned, you can lose a lot. You can lose a lot, and the important conversations are not being had. Start asking people about their values. Start asking people about how they treat people, the least of these and who we consider the best of these. Because what I care about is how you care about those folks that you feel like can't do anything for you. That's what I care about, because I'm people centered. Right. And if I hear that there's not a level of care and consideration and humanity of people that just can't do something for you, then I know that at our core, we are not the same. And with love, I cannot partner, can't work with you. I've made those mistakes by not asking those questions. And I had a lot of hard lessons that I write about in the book. And so I share now, please start asking people about their values. Make sure that you're listening with what they're saying, and also listen to what they are not saying. But you also be aware of what your own values are.
I love that. And that is so important, because especially when you're on the come up, it can be easy to be like, oh, well, so-and-so called me and they want to do X, Y, and Z, so let me say yes. And then later on find out,
yes, it's the worst yes you said.
And maybe you shouldn't have done that. So yeah, that's just so important. Yes, that is good. Values have to align. And as we said, we're talking about business, but this is other things too, y'all. Just, if values are in alignment, I mean, because you there's a spot in the book where you talk about that. It's about business, but it's also about friendships. It's about relationships. It's about all of those, any ways in which you are in community with others. If it's going to move forward, there has to be an alignment of values.
Oh, absolutely. Any people that, or any person or anything that you hold close, the values have to be in sync. The mission will follow. Right. But I believe that what must be in our roots is the way that we decide that we show up in the world and what type of people we're going to be.
Yeah. Yes. Another one of our favorites here. Yes. Be aware of your own values. That's true. Which, and all of these things require work, and they do require self-reflection. Yes.
And I write about it in the book. We can't truly collaborate until we do our own self-work. You have to know what your stuff is. You have to know how you may self-sabotage. You have to know when you get intimidated by people and what could have been a beautiful partnership, you can't work with them anymore because you're intimidated by their light or their gifts. You have to do that work yourself. When we do our own work and we are in the journey of our own healing, then we begin to attract people who are also doing their work and who's also healing. Then we sit at the table, and when we think about collaboration, it's a different type. It's a different type of conversation.
Right.
Because I only want to collaborate with people who are doing the work of healing. And I think that is the work of our generation. It is, yes, we need to collaborate, but we need to do the self-work and the healing work so we can have meaningful and sustainable collaborations. So we can go after community as a collective, and we can do things that are impactful.
Yes. Doing impactful work.
Oh, yeah.
And, this is called Brown Girl Collective. So, I'm all about the collective in this space and coming together. And, that's the reason for even building this platform. But I want to just take a quick sidebar away from the book and just talk about a little bit of the work that you do talk about in the book. But a lot of the people that you work with are like up and coming entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, things like that. So for the person who may be a solopreneur, because I am, what does it look like when you start talking about village for the person who technically is pretty much doing the work, all of the work?
Yes, we work with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners. All the work started here in Atlanta, but now we've been able to sprawl across the United States, providing technical assistance, grants, pro bono services, incubator programs, accelerator programs for small business owners. I have a retail store at Ponce City Market, which is a flagship for Black brands. So come see the Village Retail, come shop from the Village Retail. But all of this work, most of these entrepreneurs, when they first come to us, it's just them. And I always tell these entrepreneurs, there was a time when it was just me. I may pop on a screen now or go to an event and I had a full team, but it didn't start that way.
Right.
I had a small trusted tribe of friends who had my back, but I had to be vulnerable with them and tell them that I needed their help. And I was also vulnerable with them and said, listen, this is an idea that has not made money yet. I'm going to pay you in love and in-kind services. So let's barter.
Right.
So if you are building as a solopreneur and you're just getting started and you're trying to figure out how do I get my people, it helps to meet with other entrepreneurs or other business owners and say, how can we barter services? So if it's a company that's really good at marketing, I see a lot of connective tissue, how folks do marketing can barter their services, but we also have to have something to give. So if you're really good at managing CEO operations manuals and things like that, be able to assist that person who does brand work and say, I can build out your ops manual for you. I can help you with this. I can help you have KPIs and things like that. But if you're just beginning and you're trying to build your team, likely it's volunteer folks early on, and that's okay because that's how I started. But even if you have to have some 1099, some contractors in the beginning, that's okay. Whatever it takes to get your people to help you build and grow your business, welcome them in. But as you build, for entrepreneurs, incremental growth is powerful.
It is.
You may not be where you want to be today, but you have to have a vision of where you're going. I always built the Village Market, my first company. I always built it how I envisioned it to be 20 years from now. So when it was just me, I envisioned my team. I knew who was going to be my CFO. I knew who was going to be my brand specialist. At least I drawn them out and wrote it on paper, the type of person and the values that they were going to be, that they were going to have, the skills they would have. So I would always believe in building in the future, but staying in the present.
I love that. I love that. The next thing that I really want to talk about, because we know that there can be hard times, challenging times, whenever you're trying to build something, it can be building a house, whatever it is, because as we've already stated, this is not just about building businesses, even though that is a key part of Dr. Key's book. But that there are going to be challenging times, and how we work through those challenging times, both with ourselves and also with the village or the community that we're building.
Yes, and chapter in the book, Managing the Hard Stuff, I write about some very personal, hard moments that I've experienced. Some of it self-induced, some of it being naive, some of it, wanting people to be better than who they are, and not believing people the first time. Some of it being so ambitious that I neglect doing the things that I know I must do, and not to be ambitious, but to be able to rest at night and recognize the woman that I see in the mirror. But hard stuff it depends on how you deal with it and how you reflect on it. For me, I am a student of the lesson. I just need to learn the lesson.
Yes.
I need to know when life is just sitting me down and say, I'm gonna put you back in this seat because I have something greater for you to do. And because you won't be obedient to this lesson, you sit down, you're gonna feel your feelings are going to be hurt, but you need to learn this lesson because there's something greater for you to do. But I write about very trying moments. And even, during the pandemic, I had no idea. I was like the other 42% of businesses. I had no idea the future of the village market. The village market was built to be in person. It was built to be in-person relationships. And the business model shuttered when we were, shuttered in place. And I had to figure out, in managing that hard stuff, the power of my own pivot.
Right.
And I had to tell myself, the same person who built the village market can build this next iteration. Remember who you are.
Yes.
But the gifts that you possess. And for other entrepreneurs, if you had a business and for whatever reason it closed, you built the first one. Remember who you are. Remember what you possess. Those skills didn't leave because something had to close. You have even more to offer now because you know how to build something and you know how to pivot to the next thing.
Yeah, there is power in the pivot, and that's being able to shift, because it could be things that happen, and sometimes the marketplace just changes, period. Or your purpose might shift a little bit, because with Brown Girl Collective, many people don't know, and I originally started I did it with the intention of having like a quote unquote Facebook type pro space for Black women to come, and it like morphed into something totally different. But it still, the intent was always to serve Black women, always. And over time, it's been different ways that I've come up with to do that, and it's going to continue to evolve and all of that. But being able to pivot and say, maybe I don't need to do that right now, but I can do something else that still serve the same community and maybe in even a greater way. So I love that.
Yes, and I bet as you've had to do different iterations or pivot, I bet it keeps getting better and better.
It does. Because I'm talking to you, so it definitely it's getting gooder and gooder, as they say.
That's what I want that's what I want our community to know. That what can feel like the worst of times, if you see it through, it can be the best of times. I had no idea when I was sitting on my floor thinking through what was I going to do. I had no idea that I was going to have the vision to open a retail store. I had no idea that I was going to have a vision to start my nonprofit. I had no idea that I would be writing a book. And this is when I felt that all things were falling apart. And the only thing that was happening is that I was doing a necessary shedding. I needed to be set free so I can be fully who I'm meant to be.
I love that. That is so good. And in being who you are supposed to be, you got to take care of yourself. So one of the most important chapters, they're all important, but the whole concept of self-care. And I love the way that you talk about self-care and wellness, because it's required for us to be able to to do this work and to build community and to, all the other things that, we want to do. So just talk a little bit about what wellness and self-care really means to you, Dr. Key.
Wellness for me is personal. And I think wellness for all of us should be a personal journey. I wrote about it, and I can't wait until you all read it, but I wrote about it in such a way that wherever you may be on your journey, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that there is no perfect blueprint. There's no perfect guide. You have to see what your soul responds to and give it more of that. So if you need to pause and do nothing, and that resonates with your soul and you feel your body exhale, give yourself more of that. I need to go outside on my walks. I need to feel the sun on my skin. I need to see the trees. When I do that, all my ideas come. The stress that I have is regulated, whatever it may be. And so I make sure I immerse myself in nature. I just continuously fill my cup. Self-care is filling our cup, because we know that as our cup is filled, life also has a little crack in it. And so things are seeping out. So I constantly fill my cup. And also talk about that self-care. Now, you can go on a luxurious staycations.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy the $45 candles. We got some at Village Retail. But you don't have to do none of that.
Right.
You don't have to do any of that. If you're able to sit down and feel your breath come in and out of your body and it replenishes you, you are well. You are feeding your soul. So I really want us, I think wellness has been commodified in such a way that it's now in this capitalistic construct. And then I want us to get our power back. That wellness is centering our breathing, putting our feet in the earth, laughing with our girlfriends.
Yes.
Yeah.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And yes, because everybody can't afford. And I've seen some candles that are like 4 times, 5 times what you're talking about. I was like, for a candle? I mean, sure enough, it's huge. But I'm
Right.
just like, I can't see myself spending $200 for a candle. Because it's still a candle.
It's still a candle. And I love my candles, but it's still a candle.
It's still a candle.
Yeah.
But yes, I love the fact that, because yes, especially if you're on social media, and I mean, as good as social media is for the things that it's good for, and being able to get ideas and learn about people and be exposed to different things, not to get caught up in that whole thing that that you have to go on the $40,000 vacation to really relax and unwind, because if you can't afford it, then when you come back, you're stressed out because you didn't spend all this money on something that you couldn't really afford. So it didn't really do what it needed to do. But I love the idea of just finding out what centers us, what helps us to stay grounded, what helps us to feel well, what helps us to breathe with ease and all of that. And also doing some of the things in community as well.
Yes. And as much as I love my solo walks, I randomly see my friend, Dr. Ayana Abrams, randomly for walks. And then when I end up walking with Ayana, we laugh and we talk. My friend, Dr. Crystal, these moments are just beyond the time that I spend with myself and God. When I'm with people that I love, it fills my cup just as much. So if we can find these sacred spaces within our community, those things, that is self-care. That is wellness.
Yes. So I want to talk about building wealth.
Yes.
Collective economics. Because right now, that's really what we need to think about. And of course, when you talk about wealth, of course, there's finances and building for our generational wealth for those that come behind. But there is more than just that.
Yeah. I was on this panel and one of the panelists said, how about as Black people, we just try capitalism? We need to try it. We just need to try it. That is our solution. And then I said on the panel, I think that's what we've been doing. So let's try. How about we try building collective wealth. How about we put our money and our resources together rather than I go buy the building, I buy the land, I buy all the inventory, I hire the full-time CFO. How about we figure out how to put our money together, get a fractional CFO, buy a building together, buy the land together. How about we decide and look at it? What does it look like? We pull our monies together. I believe that we can go further. And I have examples of this. So I always love to put my money where my writing is. Two friends of mine are writing the book, Jewel and Tracy and I decided without any long business meetings to buy a commercial property together in Atlanta. We decided over a dinner, over a light dinner. Tracy said, y'all, there's this building available. And Jewel, Tracy, and I sat there for over 2-3 hours, and we said that we were going to do it. When Monday came, we started the process to do it. Could we individually have tried to go do it on our own? Yes, but it wasn't necessary. And because of that, now I have 2 business partners where I'm not doing everything. Jewel's not doing everything. Tracy's not doing everything. It feels so good to be in partnership with people where we're all, number one, pulling our financial resources, but also our social resources, our knowledge resources together to be able to get this property going. I think that is our model for our community.
And this is in alignment with what we're talking about. What do Black people need to do while Donald is in office? And that's one thing what you just said is definitely a part of it.
Chris, that is a great question. And I would say I don't have all the answers, Chris, but I do have the answer that we must coalition build. We have to put away the petty differences, all the things that keep us separated. And we have to set the intention that we are going to be impenetrable. We're going to be strategic in our mission and what we're going to do. We're going to be steadfast, and we're not going to lock arms. We're not going to separate from each other. That takes a level of discipline that I don't think has been required of us. But it is time now that is the requirement. So, Chris, we must work together. We must now in micro communities decide, I got your back, and I mean it. Not just with words, not just to do stuff cute for social media. We have to decide, what does having my back mean? What does it mean to build a coalition? What are our values? What is the mission? And what are we going after together? But Chris, for me, coalition building has always been the answer. So whoever is in your micro community, get them on a Zoom, group text, and say, we need to talk. Because we would not be able to survive this time if we continue to try to do it in the mindset of individualism.
Right. And that is a thing. A lot of people is like, let me get mine. And, you figure out what you're going to do over there, but I'm going to get mine, and that sort of thing. Or an old pastor of mine used to say, us 4 and no more, as in, me and my spouse and our 2 kids, us 4 and no more. We don't care about anybody else. But yes, and really historically, we have built in community. If we go back to our ancestors, that's what they did. They built in community because we didn't have the option in many cases to go out and get things from other people. So we had to kind of be more insular and figure things out for ourselves and work together. So we've gotten away from that, but it's time to start getting back to that.
And everything has a muscle memory. While we have gotten away from it, it is in our DNA. The only thing we have to do is activate. The only thing we have to do is start activating. So once we start activating, we realize, we can do this. But more importantly, we must do this. We must be a community.
Definitely. And you said activate, which ties into the very last chapter. See what we're doing here?
You're good at this.
There's always a method to the madness. But the very last chapter of the book, you talk about actions is a verb. Now, we started out saying support is a verb, but
Mhm.
actions is a verb, which
Mhm.
you could tell us what that means.
Yes. I will say when everyone else get their book, it's going to say support is a verb. So I can't wait until
Okay.
you all. Yeah, I can't wait
What's
until you
changed?
all.
Okay.
Yes, I can't wait till you all read the support is a verb chapter. I created the I created support is a verb almost 10 years ago, and at
Mhm,
that time, it was no different than the time now. If you love something, it should be followed by action. So if
mhm,
you say that you're for a community, if you say you're for Black businesses, how are you spending? If you say that you want different in our elected offices, how are you voting? Are you voting? If you say that you are in support of something, then you must be down for it. But
mhm.
everything that we say we are for, if we don't have action behind it, respectfully, y'all, we're just talking.
Yeah.
And this time, no more talk. We must do. We
Yeah.
must act. We must build. We must unify. And more importantly, we can. So I
Mhm.
love my life. My life is all about the doing. I think Michelle Obama said, do something.
Do
And I
something.
said, do something. And I'm pleading with us. Let's do something together. Let's
Mhm,
do something for each other because of each other. Because
mhm,
the preservation of our people, moving from survival to thriving, requires us to unify and do something together.
mhm. That's perfect. And I have to show this because I don't know if you all can really tell from this, but look real close at the cover of that book. You see those circles there?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why those circles are on this book. Remember, it's called No One is Self-Made. You see those circles? Circles within circles within circles, and people connected.
Yeah. Because symbolism matters. I can say it in words, but I can show it in pictures.
Mhm,
Because Marcie, when I close my eyes, that's what I see in our community. I see that there's a tight circle when that's our people. That's the
mhm,
folks that's close and tight to us.
mhm,
When that we're wrapped inside of another circle. We're
mhm,
wrapped inside another circle. That outer circle that you see, to me,
mhm,
that's our ancestors
mm.
holding us tight because we are bound by a force that is far greater than what we possess individually and what we possess in this lifetime. We have to remember the blueprint in which we come from. That's
Yes.
that tight circle that is holding us together. But when I close my eyes, when I
Mm,
think about the village, when I think about all the great things that I'm very fortunate to do, it's people that I'm holding hands with. And
mhm.
what's also beautiful about that circle, the circle can continue to grow. We can
Yes.
keep
Yes.
adding people in. Yes.
Mhm. Bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Bigger and bigger. That's my North Star.
Yes. I love that. And that is a perfect place to end this beautiful conversation with you. And so, of course, No One is Self-Made will be out on February the 4th, I believe.
Yes, February 4th.
All right. So you all have gotten a sneak peek. And so just tell the folks about some of the things that you have coming up that might either be in person or, of course, go ahead and buy copies of the book. I mean, that's a given. But I mean, in terms of places where they might be able to meet you in person or if, any book tours or anything like that where people can stay connected and come out and get a chance to chat with you.
Yes. Before I answer that, I have to tell you thank you again.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be in your space. It means this sacred space means a great deal to me. So yes, everyone, buy the book. Support is a verb. I want this book in the hands as many people as possible. And again, it's not a book to me. This is a love letter from my heart
Mhm.
of how deeply I care about our community and our people. I will be doing a tour. I'm excited about that. We will do a celebration in Atlanta February the 7th. Details are still being finalized, but on the 13th, I'll be doing a talk with Tabitha Brown in
Mhm.
LA. The following week, I'll be doing a talk in Chicago with Lovey, who has been a wonderful mentor through
Yeah.
this writing process. And then we will do another talk at the end of February at the gathering spot for the Atlanta community. I want you all to make sure you're there. I believe it's going to be February 27th, but if you follow me at Dr. Key Hallman, I'm going to post these tour dates. I want to sign your book. I
Yeah.
want to hug you if you are a hugger. I cannot wait to meet just all of you. And beyond supporting me, make sure you continue to support all the great things that Marcie is doing.
Oh, thank you
Continue
for
to
that.
shower her with love and support because she needs a village to keep the collective going. So make sure you support her as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, you know I'm in Atlanta, so I was listening to your dates. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to do my best to come out and see you. But all of Dr. Key's information has been scrolling at the bottom, so you can learn more about her work. Of course, go ahead and you can still pre-order a copy of the book, because that's one thing that I know is important for authors, is that the
Yes.
pre-orders help it. Because we want her to be on some of the bestsellers list and all those things, and the pre-orders help to do that, because anything that is sold prior to release goes into that first week's numbers. So see, I know a little something. I've been doing this enough. I know a little something.
Yes. So
So
yes,
yes,
y'all.
please do that for her. And one place that you can get it in terms of support, there is a Brown Girl Collective bookstore, which it's technically a part of Bookshop, if you're familiar with bookshop.org. But if you go to browngirlcollectivebookstore.com, it will take you to the store, and Dr. Key's book is there and ready and waiting for you if you want to go ahead and get your pre-orders in. So thank you again. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Of course, I've been following, me being in Atlanta, I know about your businesses and all the things that you have been doing. And it is indeed a pleasure for me to have you here, because I'm like, oh, she said yes. It's like it always makes me feel good, because you get a lot of invitations and things like that. And so I consider it an honor that you decided to come here and give us a sneak peek of No One is Self-Made. So thank you so much for that. And so I'm going to let you grab some water, and don't hang up just yet. I'm going to let everybody know who's coming next week, because we're going in a different direction next week. But I just want to let everybody know. But thank you again, and I will holler at you in just a second.
Okay.
All righty. So that was a beautiful conversation. I definitely consider it an honor to have Dr. Key here with us, and to have been able to just introduce the book to you, introduce her work to you if you're not familiar, and just really think about ways that, we can build our villages, the ways that we can support other entrepreneurs, the ways that we can take care of ourselves in, the days ahead, days and years ahead, and build for the future of our community and of our own extended villages. So thank you so much for being here. You are so appreciated, and please continue to follow on Brown Girl Collective. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, please go ahead and do that, and just be on the lookout for more and more wonderful people who are on the coming in the near future. But next week we're going to talk about Black folks and style, because we got style. Next week we will have Shirley Neal with us, who's the author of Afrocentric Style, a celebration of Blackness and identity in pop culture. So we are all going to be talking about Black style, and this is a beautiful coffee table type book that just shows, oh hey, there the Obamas. Well, I'm not going to say anything about that right now, but yes, we're going to talk about all of the wonderful things, and about how we show up in our style and all of those sorts of things. And so I look forward to seeing you all next week for that conversation with Shirley Neal. And Asada, I would say, yes, just continue to follow here, and about the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. Continue to follow here, and follow Dr. Key as well, and see just what things are coming up. And hopefully Soulful Chicago Book Fair will be something on our calendars in the near future. So thank you for that comment. Everyone, please enjoy the rest of your evening or afternoon or morning, depending on when you are watching. Thanks again for being here, and we will see you again real soon. Take good care.